Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into some really provocative source material. It challenges pretty much everything you might think about civilization, power, even money itself.
That's right. We're taking a close look at excerpts from The Society That Needs No Owners.
And our mission here, for you listening, is to explore what's really a radical proposal for, well, redesigning civilization.
Exactly. But before we get to the redesign part, the author, Phil, who comes from a design and engineering background, by the way, gives this incredibly scathing diagnosis of our current system. Really points out the deep structural flaws.
And it's driven by urgency, isn't it? All the source talks about 4 converging crises happening right now.
Yeah, it's quite stark. You've got the climate emergency, capitalism structurally failing, the fact that we're running out of oil, and this escalating geopolitical tensions.
The potential for World War III, basically. The author doesn't mince words there. It's not just some abstract future problem. It's presented as immediate, existential, really.
Absolutely. And the core argument is that we're already way past sustainability. The statistic cited is just, well, shocking. Humanity's consuming resources, like we have 1.7 planets every year.
Wow. 1.7.
Yeah. So we're pushing the mothership, as they call it, to its absolute limit. And the system itself, the source argues, is designed to fail because it demands infinite growth, but, the planet's finite.
But it doesn't just stay there in the doom and gloom.
Yeah.
The focus shifts pretty quickly to disruption, right? To hope, even.
It does. Philfrey proposes solutions described as radical ruptures. The goal is ambitious. Build the most prosperous, free, and inclusive society ever, but strictly within the planet's actual limits.
And this is where the engineering part comes in, I guess. It's not pie-in-the-sky stuff.
Not at all. That's crucial. It's not presented as some kind of utopia. The solutions have to be based on mature technology, stuff that already exists. And they must be, technically sound and economically viable.
Only viable practice. That's the phrase used.
Exactly. If it's not something we can realistically implement now, it's off the table. That practical grounding makes it feel, well, much more serious than just a political wish list.
Okay, so let's unpack this redesign. Where does it start? What's the absolute must-have foundation for this new social structure?
Right. The source is crystal clear on this. The non-negotiable condition is a direct participatory democracy. Full stop. No ifs, ands, or buts.
No exceptions. Why so absolute?
Well, the author believes that trying to fix anything, the economy, the environment within the current system, is basically impossible, because the system itself is built to protect the power structure, the pyramid, that we're actually trying to dismantle.
I see.
So a true participatory democracy, ideally working through things like constant plebiscites, real-time feedback loops, it ensures power is actually decentralized, completely shifted.
So the whole process has to be bottom-up. You find the structural problems, which we're about to get into, then you propose concrete fixes.
And then those fixes get tested, criticized, improved by everyone, collectively. It's not just voting for a leader every few years. It's people constantly co-designing the rules they live by.
That idea of collective criticism, it sort of leads us right into the diagnosis itself, doesn't it? Chapter 1 apparently starts with a pretty strong warning.
Oh, yeah. Intense. The author basically promises the veil will fall, that the truth is going to hurt, but it's liberating. And crucially, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's quite a claim. Sets a high bar.
Definitely. And then, boom, it jumps straight into what's called the original sin of civilization.
Which is?
The invention of the coin, currency, money.
The source says this invention showed up with 2 faces, almost like Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay, what are the 2 faces?
So the first one, the angelic face, was, well, genuinely useful. It solved the nightmare of barter, right? Made trade way easier, smoother, real progress.
Makes sense. But then there's the other face, the maleficent face. And this, according to the text, immediately ripped open Pandora's box. It unleashed greed, corruption, inequality, the monsters, the author says, now run the world.
Wow. Okay, that's a dark take on money.
It gets darker. Here's the really provocative claim. The source argues that actual historical progress, that speeding up of society and complexity we've seen, was really driven by that maleficent mix. Greed and power, fueled by conflict, by blood.
That's unsettling. To think that progress itself might be tied to the worst parts of us?
It is unsettling. It challenges our whole idea of how societies evolve.
Yeah.
But to really grasp the diagnosis, we have to get the author's definition of money itself. It's not what you might think.
All right, let's unpack that, because the source says this is the core insight, right? Money isn't just exchange.
No, it represents wealth. And wealth, fundamentally, is produced by human effort, labor, skill, creativity, but most critically, it represents time of life.
Time of life.
Yeah.
Explain that.
That's the absolute key connection. Money is essentially life translated into numbers. Think about buying a house. You're not just swapping cash for bricks.
Right.
You're trading the hours of your life it took to earn that money for the thousands of hours of other people's lives. The masons, the engineers, the painters, everyone in the supply chain who built it. Your time is finite, irreplaceable. That makes it the ultimate value.
Okay, wow. Thinking of it that way, it changes the stakes entirely. If money is lifetime, then messing with money, stealing it, that's literally stealing pieces of people's lives.
Precisely. And once you accept that premise, the author moves on to expose what they call the first fake news.
Which is gold. Gold. How is gold fake news?
Think about it. It's completely non-essential, right?
Yeah.
You can't eat it. You can't use it for heating. It doesn't cure diseases. So how did it become the ultimate symbol of wealth and power?
Well, because it's rare, I suppose.
Yeah,
Shiny.
Exactly. The source argues it started as an ancient amulet. Its rarity was then leveraged to make it a symbol of power, of scarcity that could be controlled.
Okay, I can see that argument historically, but then the source apparently takes aim at crypto, calling it gold 2.0. That seems like a huge leap, dismissing modern tech like that.
It is a strong claim. The argument is that it's basically the same scam, just updated. Cryptocurrencies, the author says, have artificial scarcity. They burn up insane amounts of real resources, human labor, energy, infrastructure.
For what?
Solely, the source claims, to create a decentralized channel for elite corruption and wealth hoarding. It's presented as the same old pattern of control through manufactured scarcity, just in digital form. Not about facilitating real production, but about hoarding lifetime.
That idea, that pattern of control, seems central, and it leads into the discussion about the elite, the owners,
Yeah.
and the origin of power itself, right? Starting with monarchy.
Yes, and it's a pretty brutal take. The source claims the first king wasn't some divinely appointed leader. He was just the most ruthless bandit around.
The biggest gangster, basically.
Pretty much. Imposed his will through violence and fear, but dressed it up as protection. The original mafia protection racket.
And how did that stick? How did it become legitimized?
Through accomplices. The king's inner circle, the early elite, they were paid off with gold, with land, with special privileges. That created complicity and kept the system going.
And the source draws a direct line from that to today.
Absolutely. It argues the fundamental DNA hasn't changed. Crowns just become presidential sashes, swords are now pens signing executive orders, and the executioners, well, now they're called CEOs.
Wow, comparing CEOs to executioners, that's designed to provoke. It definitely hammers home the author's view on power as extraction, and it gets even darker with this idea of legalized modern slavery.
Yeah, this is where the control mechanism gets really insidious. The bandit king effectively declares all the land, it's mine now.
Okay.
By doing that, he cuts off the peasants' ability to survive on their own, right? They can't just grow their own food anymore, so what are they forced to do?
They have to work for the king or the landowners, sell their labor.
Exactly. They're forced to sell their time of life, their existence bit by bit just to survive, selling their finite lives in installments.
And how was that justified?
Well, that's where the clergy came in, according to the source. As a strategic partner, they basically stamped it with divine approval. This isn't theft, it's God's will.
A structural control mechanism disguised as morality.
Precisely. Which leads the author to ask you, the listener, that really pointed question. If we're supposedly in a democracy, why can't we just vote to get rid of taxes if we really held the power?
Yeah, that makes you pause. It challenges the idea that we control the wealth flow, which brings us neatly to the pyramid of power.
Right. And the first thing to notice is who isn't at the top. It's not governments.
Okay, so who is? Let's break down these 4 levels the source outlines, starting at the very peak.
Level 1, the absolute top, central banks.
Not private banks, the central ones,
Yeah.
like the Fed or the Bank of England.
Exactly. They control the massive transfer of wealth, usually from poor to rich. They manage unemployment levels. They can bring entire governments to their knees with one single number,
Which is
the interest rate. The source uses Brazil as a stark example, saying its high real interest rate means over half of all the taxes collected go straight back to the banks, the owners, just to service the debt.
half. That's staggering. It makes them sound like an unelected world government.
That's very much the implication. Okay, so below them, level 2. the private banks.
Like the high street banks, commercial banks?
Yeah. Their power, according to the source, comes from their ability to essentially create money out of thin air when they make loans, and then direct where that money goes. The text points to disasters like the Great Depression and the 2008 crisis as proof that this power in private hands is just inherently catastrophic.
Okay, level 3.
The billionaires. They use their immense capital, which translates directly into political power, to push for deregulation, what we often call neoliberalism. This allows them to carve out and protect their monopolies, largely free from public oversight.
And level 4. The base.
That's us. Everybody else. We're the foundation the whole pyramid rests on. And our role is basically just to support it, supply it, feed it with our time of life.
It's a really bleak picture of the world order, just layers of extraction.
It is. And the engine driving this whole thing, the source says, is the magic of banking, which is really the mechanism behind what it calls financial cannibalism.
Okay, the magic. What's the trick?
It's the loan. When a bank gives you a loan, the author insists they aren't lending out money they already have sitting in a vault. They're basically just typing a number into a computer.
Creating money digitally.
Effectively, thus. A loan is described as a license to access existing wealth. It's permission to use the accumulated life hours, the stored value created by everyone else, and then when you repay the loan, the principal amount, it just disappears. Poof, it's extinguished.
So the bank creates the ability to access wealth and then takes a cut.
Exactly. And that cut is the interest, which isn't just a fee, it's extracted lifetime. The source argues that while interest is sold as insurance or risk premium, it becomes this massive tool for systemic wealth transfer upwards.
It's interesting you mentioned that. The source notes that some systems, like traditional Islamic finance, actually prohibit interest.
Yeah.
Riba, right?
Yes, it mentions that curiosity. They prefer models based on partnership, sharing profits and losses. It completely changes the dynamic compared to debt-based interest.
So this interest-based system, this magic, fuels the progression of exploitation. The source actually charts this out, how the goal of exchange has degraded over time.
It does. It starts simple. Barter. That's just merchandise versus merchandise. MVSM, goods for goods.
Okay.
Then comes commerce. Merchandise versus merchandise. MVS, DVSM, money helps the exchange happen, but the goal is still ultimately the merchandise, the stuff.
Right.
Then the industrial era flips it. It becomes money versus merchandise versus more money. DVS, MVSD. Now, the money, the profit, is the primary goal, and often achieving that profit comes at the expense of the environment, workers' health, well-being.
Okay, DVS, MBSD. And the final stage, where we are now.
Finance, which the source simplifies down to just DVSD, money versus money.
No merchandise involved at all.
Not necessarily. It's pure financial abstraction, financial cannibalism. Because money represents lifetime, this DVSD system doesn't actually create any new real wealth. It just shuffles existing wealth around, concentrates it, and mostly creates and profits from crises. It extracts value that's already there.
Extracting lifetime through financial games.
Okay.
But the control doesn't stop there, does it? There's a second Pandora's box.
Right. So having figured out how to exploit our time of life via finance, the next step, the source argues, was to control our minds, our attention, our beliefs.
Through digital media.
Exactly. And the main weapon here is polarization. The claim is that the natural state of public discourse, a messy, complex, turbulent sea of ideas, has been deliberately manipulated.
How so?
It's been forced into just two opposing camps, two stagnant, shallow lakes, we're algorithmically programmed to basically hate anyone in the other lake.
That sounds familiar. Is there evidence for that claim?
The source cites a really striking statistic from the US about inter-party marriage acceptance. Like back in the 60s, apparently 96% of families were okay with their kids marrying someone from the opposite political party.
Okay, almost everyone.
Yeah. Today, that number is supposedly down to just 4%. 4%.
Wow, that is a dramatic shift. It suggests a huge increase in tribalism.
It does. And the author argues this isn't accidental. It's engineered intolerance baked into the social fabric by the platforms we use. The conclusion is pretty stark. The real price of all this free digital media is our freedom, our ability to think critically, to connect meaningfully.
We're divided, angry, maybe even addicted to the conflict that makes these platforms profitable.
That's the diagnosis. It's complete now. We've seen the systemic problems laid bare.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. We've covered the core illnesses, their alleged origins in money, and the sort of banditry model, the structure of power in that four-level pyramid, and the methods financial cannibalism, digital polarization.
The author definitely delivered on the promise to pull back the veil, even if the picture revealed is pretty painful to look at. But now, hopefully, we understand the why behind the call for such a radical redesign.
Anchored in that direct participatory democracy,
Right.
using mature or viable tech.
Right. So this whole deep dive has really focused on the problems, the diagnosis according to the source. We know the proposed cure starts with direct participatory democracy. And we know the process involves proposing solutions and refining them through collective criticism.
Okay.
So here's something for you, the listener, to really chew on. If the ultimate goal is to dismantle that pyramid, and you have to start somewhere strategic, probably at the top, right?
Yeah.
With the central banks that control money creation and interest rates.
Yeah.
What single structural solution beyond just having the democracy itself would need to be proposed first? What concrete change could actually take away the power of level one to create and control money, to control life, translated into numbers?
What tackles the DVSD problem at its root?
Exactly. What's the first move against the peak of the pyramid?
Yeah.
That's maybe the key question that needs answering to find the real anti-venom here. Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us for this really intense deep dive into the blueprint for a society that potentially needs no owners. We'll see you next time.
Hey!